nation towards completing infrastructural projects nationwide.
Long-lasting legacies that signpost the years of oil and gas exploitation, and I assure you that there is more to come.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo implores key players in the justice sector to be prepared for the times ahead.
And as Nigeria's coronavirus cases rise to over 48,000, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyama, reflects on his experience at PTF briefing.
The issue of stigmatization, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Anybody can get catch this virus.
Good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall discuss farmers' response to food security in a COVID-19 pandemic.
All right, indeed. Now, for some time now, about 6 months precisely, since Nigeria reported her index case of COVID-19, economic activities, specifically agriculture and other related matters, have suffered setback. And farmers, that's when farmers are about to start preparing for the 2020 farming season.
And as government keeps providing palliatives from the strategic grains reserve, the tendency is that the reserve will be empty one day, as the country is not producing as much as required to replace what is being taken due to COVID-19 pandemic, which deprived farmers from engaging in the agricultural activities and thereby threatening the nation's efforts at attaining food security.
And indeed, now worried over the situation, President Muhammadu Buhari constituted a committee to work out modalities to cushion the effects of the pandemic on 2020 farming season.
And in addition, the committee is to facilitate movement of food and agricultural inputs nationwide so that production activities will continue to avoid food shortages and ensure 2020 production season is not hampered in any way.
Well, Kieran, of course, I'm sure you know that the president is not only the only one worried over possible food crisis as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the UN organ, that's the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, and other experts describe COVID-19 as a serious threat to food security, and that's, of course, because of the negative effects on agricultural production and research, as we have earlier indicated.
Yes, clear. And thank God the lockdown is gradually being eased off, and the government is gradually reopening the economy with activities picking up. But the question is, how has COVID-19 affected agriculture and, by extension, food security? How can farmers sustain farming to ensure food security? What level of mechanization have our farmers really achieved towards ensuring food security? Good to have you join us on this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. Some of the questions raised, of course, the answers will be gotten from the guests that we're going to assemble this morning for this particular edition of Good Morning Nigeria. My name is Kirian Umayo. It's just good to have you.
And I am Claire Dilabo Abdulrazak. Thank you for staying with us. As always, it's a Friday's edition, and we're reaching you live from our studios here in Abuja on the network service of the NTA, of course, that's Africa's largest TV network. We shall also bring you the complimentary segments of the program, but for now, let's bring in Comfort Amodo, who is in our newsroom, to give us the highlights of the morning news. Comfort, good morning.
Good morning, Claire and Kinsley, and here's the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari says more resources will be allocated by the federal government towards completing infrastructural projects across the country, especially those being undertaken by local contractors and technology, as a deliberate attempt at sustaining the creation of jobs for Nigerians. This was at the virtual inauguration of the new headquarters building of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State. The president expressed the belief that provision of job opportunities and infrastructure that support businesses are essential means of addressing challenges of security.
I want to highlight that we have put in place a landmark of reference in the Niger Delta to reflect long-lasting legacies that signpost the years of oil and gas exploitation, and I assure you that there is more to come. I must commend the Nigerian Content Board for the successes recorded in the last 10 years since its formation. The edifice is a befitting birthday gift as you mark your 10th year anniversary as a regulator and developer of local content in the oil and gas industry.
And the federal government says progress has been achieved towards reversing the United States suspension of the issuance of immigrants' visas to Nigerian passport holders. This is contained in the report of the Committee on Citizen Data Management and Harmonization submitted to President Muhammadu Buhari.
All the issues and concerns that led to the imposition of visa restriction by the United States of America have been reviewed and processes put in place or proposed to address themselves. Out of 6 areas of concern raised by the USA, Nigeria had fully satisfied 2. 2 are substantially satisfied, while some progress have been made on the remaining 2.
The implementation of these and other far-reaching recommendations as articulated in the report will fully address all outstanding issues that led to the visa restrictions. Government remains committed to sustaining the follow-up for the removal of the visa restrictions by the United States of America and developing a credible, harmonized national identity data management system.
And Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says technology and innovations has defined a new way of life and now fast-tracking the democratization of law and justice in Nigeria. The Vice President stated this at the Law Pavilion Technology Conference held virtually with the theme A New Paradigm in Justice Delivery. The Vice President said though no one had predicted that a time will come when authorities would endorse virtual court proceedings, the disruptions caused by coronavirus pandemic has necessitated the adoption of technology for all court processes. He implored lawyers and key players in the justice sector to be prepared for the times ahead by finding alternative and better ways of delivering legal and associated services, as the next few years will see even more changes as artificial intelligence will play a bigger role in the court system. And traditional rulers from Anambra State have expressed appreciation to President Muhammadu Buhari for his genuine commitment to the development of the country, especially the southeast in particular. The monarchs led to the State House by Prince Arthur Eze were received by the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari. And Nigerian Center for Disease Control and CDC has announced 373 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. The latest figures released bring the total number of confirmed cases to 48,116 infections in the country. A breakdown of the new cases from 20 states indicate that Lagos recorded the highest number for the day with 69 new cases, while Osun State has 41 new cases. Kaduna and Oyo states recorded 40 new cases each. The FCT 35, Plateau 22, Rivers 19, Kano and Ondo states recorded 17 new cases each. Others are Ogun 15, Abia 14, Gombe 12, Imo 9, Enugu 7, Kwara 6, Delta 5, and Niger State recorded 2 new cases. The day's tally is completed by Borno, Bauchi and Nasarawa states recording 1 case each. Confirmed cases by states, Lagos has the highest with 16,256, followed by the FCT with 4,632. Nanoyo comes third with 2,935 cases. With the latest development, total number of active cases stand at 12,841, while 34,309 cases have been successfully treated and discharged, while 966 patients died, unfortunately. Now, anyone can contract COVID-19, and no Nigerian should be ashamed to get tested and treated if infected. Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyama stated this while reflecting on his experience at the Thursday's briefing of the Presidential Task Force in Abuja.
COVID is very real. I used to think that I used to have what I call a triple protection, as you could see from our previous meetings, my mask, my shield. We just have to keep at it. You never know, where it could come from. But I think as the last point that was made, and I had wanted to say, is that the issue of stigmatization, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Anybody can get catch this virus.
I'm sure that our risk communication and community engagement strategy would gain a lot of mileage if the various youth organizations join this fight with all the necessary passion their youthful energy can bring to bear.
That's it on the morning news. The program continues shortly with Claire and Kieran after this break.
Like every mother, I'm worried about dangerous insects, especially mosquitoes, which spread diseases like malaria to my loved ones. This year, I'm not afraid. I'm using New Mortein Insta-Kill. New Mortein Insta-Kill's improved formulation knocks down mosquitoes 2 times faster. Not even a single mosquito is spared, because even one mosquito bite can cause malaria. Mortein Insta knocks down mosquitoes 2 times faster.
NTA2 College Jos, an affiliate of Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, is currently admitting students for its ordinary diploma programs in television journalism, television production, and television engineering. Interested candidates are advised to obtain relevant information concerning eligibility at our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or marketing department of any NTA station nationwide. For further information, contact Assistant Director Marketing NTA2 College Jos on 0803-314-4383 or the Academic Office of the College on 0806-980-9807. Announcer, Registrar.
Welcome back. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria this Friday. And on business news coming up shortly, Chimaobi Walter Naji brings us deeper perspective on reactions to the Companies and Allied Matters Act, known as CAMA, recently signed into law by the President.
The much-anticipated Companies and Allied Matters Bill that has passed through so many legislative scrutiny has finally been laid to rest with the signing of the bill into an act by President Muhammadu Buhari to give impetus to the implementation of the act. This is believed by industry key players to be a major landmark in ensuring transparency, ease of doing business, and proper assessment of the formal business environment in the country. The Director General, Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, believes the CAMA will regularize the unending irregularities in company ownership and management.
Another aspect of the reform deals with the issue of share capital. Under the repealed law, a company can have an authorized share capital, which means you can have some shares that you may decide not to issue. The repeal law provides that at least 25% of the shares must be issued. So, which means you can warehouse 75%. What this new law has provided is that all the shares must be issued at the point of registration. So the question of warehousing any share does not even arise. So companies don't need to have capital in their books if they don't have any need for those capital. They are at liberty to increase the share capital at any time. So you register and issue all the shares at the point of registration.
Well, thank you, Chimobi Watanaji, for that business package. And next on Good Morning Nigeria is newspaper review.
All right, let's quickly, excuse me, let's quickly introduce our newspaper reviewer this morning. As always, Baya Toyebe, who's here with us.
Good morning, Claire.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kyria. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, let's begin with the Nation newspaper. Above the nameplate of the Nation newspaper, NJC tips 4 justices for Supreme Court. With the rider 18 judges for High Court. It's on page 6. U.S. visa restriction over soon. It's also on page 6. It has a rider to that, progress made on talks. Hizbah, imams applaud Kano singer's death sentence. And NBC slams 5 million naira fine on radio station. The 2 stories are on pages 5 and 6. Now, below the nameplate, Edo Ondo 2020, that's the kicker. Monarch donates 1 million naira to Ize Iyamo. Obasake will be re-elected because of his governance. Aspirants jostle to become Jegede's running mate. Mimiko abandoned Agagu's project, says Akeredolu. More on that you can get on page 5 of the Nation. Now the lead story here says El-Rufai, Badaru blame leaders, clerics for banditry. With the rider, Sharia Council, while Southern Kaduna killing persists. The story continues on page 25 of the Nation newspaper. Now below the photo story here, Unilag crisis deepens as Senate unions back Vice Chancellor. Lecturers, workers demand council sack. And now federal government, Nigeria's economy risks return to reception. With the rider, debt sustainability crisis very likely. It's on page 8 of the Nation newspaper. Well, these are the headlines of the Nation newspaper this Friday morning. Claire.
Okay, let's take a look at the Daily Trust now. And as usual, it's a busy front page for the paper. But the lead story says, amidst dwindling revenue, weak Naira, FG says economy faces fresh hurdles, and it comes with 2 riders. Nigeria vulnerable to further forex crisis, and experts prefer solutions. Those are the riders to the lead story there. And the story is just below the nameplate. FG dumps national identity card. Just for details, you can go to page 4. Don't take that story on the value, surface value. You just read it up. Now, Boko Haram recruiting child soldiers, that's again attributed to the Multinational Joint Task Force, MNJTF, on page 44. And Buhari unveils 17-story local content house in Bayelsa. You heard that from highlights in the morning news a few minutes ago. And again, just below the caption, the lead story, you find, I got my information on Boko Haram from traders May Lafia. I got my information on Boko Haram from traders attributed to former CBN staff May Lafia, and now apologizes over comment. Meanwhile, knocks as NBC slams 5 million naira fine on the radio station which carried that story. Story is trending on the bottom, at the foot of the paper. How killing of boy raised fears in Jos community. and 7 family members die of food poisoning in Zamfara. Why Edo parallel House of Assembly cannot stand, and that's coming from the lawyers. Details of that on page 9. Baya.
Well, let's start with the allegation by Obadiah Melafia, presidential candidate for African Democratic Party. That has generated controversy, and he was summoned by the Department of State Services in Jos. And when he was asked after interrogation, he said, yes, all those were my words, but out of the 55 minutes interview, some clips were put on social media. If all that was played was said, they would have become clearer. Yes, I was privy to some sensitive information, adding that I know I should have taken more care to corroborate some of the information. I recall, but perhaps some of it was uncorroborated. Now, the report you are saying there that he got information from traders. Earlier on, there was indication that he spoke with Boko Haram commanders, and they confirmed to him that a governor is a commander of Boko Haram. Such sensitive information ought to be taken with levity, and that is why the chairman of the Northern Governors Forum and governor of Plateau State insisted that the investigation must be followed to the roots, and that is why the governor of Kaduna State and governor of Jigawa State also have pointed accusing fingers about the crisis particularly going on at the doorsteps of past governors and clerics. And increasingly, there has been some religious politics sentiments introduced into pure criminal aspects. The good thing is that of recent, some of the bandits have been arrested. If they follow through investigation, they will be able to get to the roots. And only yesterday, the military high command also indicated that a contingent has been sent to the southern Kaduna to take a critical look at this. Meanwhile, the National Broadcasting Commission has slammed a fine of 5 million onto a radio station, the FM station in Lagos. And the allegation is that they fielded on their platform a guest who was making inciting comment with an unverifiable claim. That is, it is hoped will stem this kind of vile proclamation and announcement, which is continually hitting up the policy.
Let me just read out some Melafia's response. It's on the Daily Trust. He said, speaking on what transpired between him and the DSS when he was invited to their office in Jos, the former CBN deputy governor said, and he's quoted now, when they invited me, they told me they had seen a video clip in which I said I was against the killings of innocent people, and that I had met with some people who told me that when they are done with the villages, they will move to the cities and go after big personalities in their homes and lead to war in the country. That was what I heard, and I repeated it, unquote.
So all these grave allegations. So such allegations should not really be put on TV or radio, as case may be, because they're not investigated. If I were him, I don't think there is really any reason, behind going on air to begin to release information that you got from sources such as the traders, or maybe you had people talking, then a man in his status, would just go on TV or radio, as case may be, and begin to talk. It's really not advisable for anyone to do that. So I'm not surprised at the backlash that's getting now.
He didn't intend for his comments to go viral, but I thought he should have been a little bit more circumspect.
Exactly. You can report to security agencies.
As an enlightened and a former comment official, he knows the weight of his comments, and unfortunately, he has put that particular radio station into trouble.
If you had listened to the clip, he put his integrity at stake. He said he is a PhD holder of Oxford, and he knows what he's saying. He was a former deputy governor of Central Bank, and that lended credence to the claim that he was making. Yes. But from all indications now, it has become a doublespeak. What he said and what he's saying now are completely two different things.
And the radio station that actually carried that report, I blame them, because I blame the authority, because if it's not a live program, you can edit it out, if it's not a live program, except perhaps...
He said he didn't know it was a live program, that he thought it was for a local FM radio in Lagos. But anyway, he has apologized. I hope his apology will, douse, whatever tension that has been created already.
That should be a lesson to our colleagues, particularly in the broadcast media. You don't open up your port to everybody for a live program. When it is a live program, the control is out of your hand. And unless you have the required facility to be able to edit out some unwanted comments, you put yourself in danger in getting incendiary comment across on the air.
But
and that is the danger.
You were ES of Press Council. Some people have really talked about the fine, the fine on the radio station and have kicked against it. What do you have to say to that?
The fine for this 5 million, I don't know the criteria that was used, but the fine for hate speech, as has been amended now, has been aggravated to 5 million. But this kind of unverifiable claim, the kind that can lead to what is called incendiary, that can lead to crisis. In fact, the punishment for that is immediate shutdown of the radio station. Because any broadcast that can cause public upheaval, the immediate reaction of the broadcast station is to take off the source of that information so that it cannot further generate confusion. It is serious. When it is incendiary broadcast, it is serious.
But let's quickly look.
What we've not had is actually the defense, by the radio station. They have not put out any defense.
But the radio station doesn't have any defense. You've heard it, you've transmitted it. What other defense do you have to say? In fact, if the presenter of that program had taken a step to probe further, to ask him for his facts, to query Melafia for the facts, then that radio station would have been exonerated somehow. Yes, because if you give me an information and I query your fact, I scrutinize your fact, where did you get your facts? We cannot prove this, so we are not liable to what you say.
And can you authenticate this information?
Yes,
it's okay.
As soon as that was not done, so the radio station...
There's this human interest story. There's a Dr. Anas Kolu, who's a family health expert, and she says, increasing criminality like kidnapping, insurgency, and banditry is partly due to the cause that many babies were not breastfed properly for the early 6 months of their life. That tendency is that they behave like cows because they end up taking cow milk. And she specifically said 20 years ago, when late Professor Oliko Ransom-Kuti said, when you drink cow milk, you behave like cow. And
so,
he's saying that...
sorry, I have to interrupt you. We're asked to look at the tutorials because of time now. That's a very important... yes, you have raised, but I'm sorry again. I should be able to speak to that. But let's look at the editorial. The editorial is on COVID-19 risk assessment of school resumption. And then I'll just read out where all the guidelines and suggested measures provided before secondary schools reopen nationwide. The Dennis Supervisory Committee visited the schools to verify and approve availability of the items before schools eventually reopened. Who is monitoring compliance status of schools? It is worrisome because available evidence suggests that the answers are in the negative.
Well, you recall that the federal government allowed the reopening of schools for exit students on August 4th. Some states, Kaduna State, Anambra State, and I think followed soon after, including Benue now. They have resumed, but it's for excess students. It is specifically to prepare them from their exit exam for West African School Certificate, NECO, NATEM, and what have you. But the editorial is now saying that to what extent were the guidelines provided by NCDC checked by the supervisor of schools? These days, we seem not to have what we used to have of old, inspectors who go to schools to inspect to ensure that facilities and requirements are in place. And the editorial is saying that unless we take things for granted, because even the COVID-19 protocols have been taken for granted across, alarm has been raised about local governments and the state. So the editorial is saying that we should continue to check at the school supervisors go to ensure that these protocols are there before we have a situation whereby COVID-19 will invade schools and we will begin to regret the reopening of schools.
We had a program on this platform where that was extensively discussed, and some management staff of some schools assured they are actually ensuring that the protocol is observed in the schools where they manage. But what happens is that we have some schools in the villages, right, in this country, so nobody can tell if there's any extension of such a inspection by educational authorities in various states of Nigeria that have actually reopened schools for the exit classes. That's just what will be the problem. And again, to have a rebound will be a very serious matter, because in some schools like Italy, America, and elsewhere, who reopened, shut down again. Yes, right. So
she cries. She cries in anguish and in pain. She bears the scourge of her grief. She toils in vain for justice and succumbs to silence. He gloats over his malady. Like a beast, he pounces with no remorse. Her cry means nothing. Her pain feeds her shame. Like an orphan, she's left to grieve in solitude. But no more will she cry in vain. Her adversaries will henceforth bear the brunt of their cruelty. Rape is evil. Rape is a plague, a pandemic of monumental consequences. We must unite and kick it out of our society.
Connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
All right, let's get started. And if you've just joined in, you're right on time to catch or be part of our conversation. And our issue for discussion this morning is, of course, COVID-19, farmers' response to food security. Let's take this background report as always, and it's put together by Abdul Salam Jibril.
It's been about 6 months since Nigeria recorded its biggest case of COVID-19, and the impact is being felt around the country. Every sector, which includes manufacturing, education, agriculture, and tourism, among others, have been adversely affected by the pandemic. The agricultural sector in Nigeria is one sector that the pandemic has affected, and the impact is already being felt as prices of food is increasing. The United Nations World Food Programme, UNWFP, has warned that the number of people facing food insecurity around the world might double by the end of the pandemic. During the lockdown, the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, noted that overall food prices rose sharply, particularly in the months of April and May, hitting 15.3% in April, the highest since March 2018. Data from the NBS showed that the lockdown in Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun states for almost 2 months to contain the spread of the virus largely impacted the rise in food prices. Transportation and shortage of farmhands have also been blamed for the hike. The federal government has, however, taken several measures to ensure that the agricultural sector is not further affected by the impact caused by COVID-19. Some of these measures include palliatives in the form of improved seedlings, basic farm implements at highly subsidized prices, and free or more affordable farm extension services for farmers. Going forward, how can farmers sustain farming to ensure food security? How are farmers diversifying in agriculture? What level of mechanization have farmers achieved in ensuring food security? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will speak to these issues shortly.
All right, and joining us here in Abuja studio. First of all, let me introduce Darlington Lawson. Darlington Lawson is, of course, Executive Director, Banking, Nessa Microfinance Bank. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, happy to be here.
All right, and of course, I also like to present to you this morning Kabiru Ibrahim. Kabiru Ibrahim is the President of All Farmers Association of Nigeria. It's also a pleasure to have you this morning.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to have both of you, Darlington and the President of Farmers Association once again. We have here with us also Ugochi Chukwu Akpa. He's a farmer and a community leader in Ebonyi State. We'd like to thank you, Mr. Akpa, for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll also be joining if the Zoom, we establish contact with her, Dr. Patti Peso. She is the Executive Director, Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute. She should be joining us via Zoom from Ilorin, Kwara State. We do hope to
All right, it's a pleasure once again to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Of course, there's no gainsaying the fact that COVID-19 has affected the fabric of our national existence, not just in Nigeria, but elsewhere across the globe. And particularly when we talk about food security, it's more of a concern. And I'd like to bring in the president of All Farmers Association. All right, now we'll get to him later, but we have another farmer here who's all the way from Ebonyi itself. Well, Ebonyi State is we could call Ebonyi the food basket of the southeast of Nigeria, because when it comes to yam, rice, and what have you, salt as well, Ebonyi is the place to go. So
you forgot, okay, you said rice.
Rice, exactly.
I was not going to forgive you.
Yeah, because I know that presently in Ebonyi State, I know that in Ebonyi State now, there is no market in Ebonyi that sells foreign rice. Is that true? Has it been sustained?
That is real.
It's sustained.
That is real.
All right, that's interesting. Now, how has COVID-19 affected farming? Because you are a farmer and you have your members. What has the complaints been all this while that we are passing through COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, first of all, I have to commend the president of this country. Since the inception of his regime, he introduced agriculture. And in Ebonyi State, in short, in the rural areas, as a community leader, we are pleased with him. He has tried so much. And that makes us to be enjoying. That makes us to be moving forward. And that makes us to know the value of our business farming. Now, so many governors key into it. Example, my governor, David Wezomai, he key into that agri policy. And it's helping us very, very well in Ebonyi State. How is it helping us? It's helping us in the sense that the youth, the villagers, the community leaders, the people in the rural areas now engage in serious business. Because before farming, people don't know that farming is a business. Now we have realized that farming is a very good business. And that is why in Ebonyi State, the government is helping us so much in the communities, in the rural areas. As the chairman of the
sorry, I need to interrupt because he's asking what is the impact of COVID-19? How has COVID-19 affected farmers and the farming in your state?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to explain to you. I'm coming to that. Okay. I'm coming to that. Its effect is very wonderful because we planned ahead. And how do we plan ahead? We plan ahead in the sense that we have sufficient food. We have sufficient food, and honestly, the COVID-19 didn't stop anything farming in our state, Ebonyi State. The farmers goes to farm, but we observe all the NCDC rules. The nose masks, as a community that we sensitize people about the nose mask, the distance, social distance, and other things. So they go to farm, we go to farm, and we do our farming very, very well. It doesn't affect us. For example, in Ebonyi State, when we are doing farming, after farming, during the harvest, we harvest. Like we are harvesting yam now. So we harvest very, very well, and they are very good road network to move it around. From the rural areas, from your farm to the urban city, even to the common market.
Are you saying that when you go to the farms, okay, fine, the restriction of movement as a result of COVID-19 did not stop farmers in the state from going to the farms, and that when you go to your farms, you're wearing your nose mask or face mask, and and all that.
That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Okay. The presidential task force allowed movement of food items, so farmers in Ebonyi State enjoy so much. And my governor is a law-abiding citizen. He showed us the way, and we key to it. As a committee leader, he called me with the Security Council. Then we started for the meeting. He showed us the way. Then I went and sensitized people with my men. Then the farming system doesn't stop for one day in Ebonyi State.
I think Claire, I think he's. I can understand him, right? Because even with the lockdown, the issue of anything concerning food was not restricted.
But that was later.
Exactly. And when you have to farm, the farming is in the hinterland.
Yes.
Right. So there's no crowding when you talk about farming.
Exactly.
So I begin to understand what he's talking about. There's no crowding. You know, you may not even wear your face mask if you're in your farm. Assuming you are your farm alone, right? You know, you may not even know you need it. But all the same, we've understood you. Yeah. But that does not really mean that COVID-19 does not affect food security, generally speaking. But we're going to get to that as we make progress. So let's bring in the President.
Farmers Association of Nigeria. Tell us from your perspective, is it not rosy for farmers even within this pandemic?
Well, you know, this affected the whole world. In Nigeria, we have 774 local governments, 36 states plus FCT. My friend may have spoken about the issue of Ebonyi from his perspective. But in the beginning, the lockdown was almost total for everybody. So farmers could not go to their farms. Even here in the north, where we were just doing land preparation and clearing and all that, we couldn't go. But luckily, as time went on, 4 ministers sat in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. The Ministers of Agriculture, Police Affairs, Defense, and Internal Affairs sat down and did in a press conference. They said there would be, or they set up a joint task force to enable the seamless movement of agri-produce, agri-inputs, and all that, so that there would not be food shortage because the farmers could not go to their farms. We caught on to that and said, specifically allow the farmers also free access to their farms. They agreed. The president came out later with a speech. He addressed the nation and said farmers should be allowed to have access to their farms. From AFAN, we went ahead and produced passes to enable the farmers to go to their farms.
Okay, you generated passes.
Passes, yeah, which we designed, and I signed, and my number was there, and we encouraged all the leaders, that is the farmer leaders, to do the same all over their states. Because I told you we are present in 774. Even in Ebonyi, we were late in coming, but there was an election even during the COVID-19. We have an expo there, and I believe sensitization had gone on. So before that, it was a terrible thing for everybody in Nigeria. Every farmer, everybody else was probably locked down. I don't know, there may be some pockets of disobedience to that law and all that, but it is very clear, it is in the public domain that in the beginning this affected the participation of farmers in agriculture, and therefore would have a telling effect on the food system. But now, with the benefit of this bountiful harvest and a lot of money availability from so many windows, I'm sure you have the microfinance MD here. The National Microfinance Bank came about because of the COVID. So a lot of money is in circulation to help the production in agriculture. So to that extent, I believe we may have had a very slow beginning, but now farmers are happy that there are many openings and there are many possibilities of reinvigorating the food system. And maybe we will get out of the woods this year and hope also to have a bountiful harvest in 2021 when the effect of the lack of food will be imminent, will be obvious. Because, the history of Nigeria is by some miracle, if you recall, the president said, or the nation decided to close our borders with our neighbors. Hitherto, we used to provide food for all of the Niger Republic and even beyond on that border. And even the corridor to northern Ghana was open.
Yes.
So we were able to feed all these nations around Nigeria because of our production and our capacity, our population and all that. But that remained internally because they were not allowed to go out. So that helped the system. So we still have some difficulties in soaring prices of food items, but it is less because the borders were closed and these things would not go out.
How would you then situate what you're saying with the concerns raised by FAO and UN that we might not, there might be escalation of hunger even by the end of the year, and again we might not even achieve our zero hunger target?
Zero hunger is ambitious. The Africa, zero hunger Africa. I have been a proponent for zero hunger Nigeria, not zero hunger Africa. There is nothing I can do about that. It is indeed very important for us to note that the FAO can make predictions based on so many parameters. But the reality of it is, Nigeria had made the mistake in the beginning of not eating what it produced. Necessity now, and the advice and advocacy that has been going on all over, is that we should produce what we eat and eat what we produce. To that extent, what used to be the staple when you and I were growing up was subjugated to probably the elitist attitude that we have cultivated over time. Take Ebonyi, or take completely the South. I was a youth corper in Owerri. I used to go to restaurants in Owerri to ask for food, and they would tell me that
the shutdown of the borders, for several months before the advent of COVID-19, also did assist Nigerian farmers. Because most of your members have actually commended the federal government for doing that, and so I believe also that you're also enjoying the benefits that were driven from that very long closure of the border before this COVID-19. Let's go to Darlington Lawson, the Executive Director of banking NASA Microfinance Bank. Well, you emerged because of COVID-19, and I would like you to tell us about the 50 billion naira targeted credit facility for those Nigerians affected by COVID-19, which of course is being disbursed by you. Let us know how many Nigerians have the opportunity of getting something from you, and also let us know your monitoring mechanism to ensure that those who benefited from that are actually using the money judiciously.
Well, good morning once again, and once again it's a privilege to be here, especially in between two exponents of agric and farming. I do hope that as a financial institution and a financial intermediary that I will live here in my full shape.
You're not a farmer from South.
I'm not a farmer, that's the thing. And so it's really humbling, it's really very humbling to be seated in between my, if you like, my constituency by extension. So I see them come to my office, but now I'm hearing them speak dispassionately about their issues, and I'm happy to be here. Let me first clarify that, of course, National Microfinance Bank was not set up because of COVID. Indeed, when we were set up, we came to being in March 2019, pre-COVID, obviously. We were set up to meet the needs of the SMEs and indeed to create financial inclusion. We believe that our role was to help or pursue or push the success of the financial inclusion policy of the federal government of Nigeria. And we've been doing a lot in that regard. Now, when COVID happened, when the pandemic happened, the lockdown situation came in, and the federal government under the President, Muhammadu Buhari, gave directives to the central bank, and they indeed created a stimulus package, the 50 billion targeted credit facility. It was intended to bring, to ameliorate the pains of households and also to stimulate the SMEs, the MSMEs, and by saying households and MSMEs, of course, agric would obviously be affected, being that we also targeted the global, not the global now, the supply chain, agri-supply chain, in providing finance for these people. Now, you talked about how we approached it. It was quite an onerous task, to be honest with you. A lot of people were home during the lockdown, and it was just the easiest thing to do to just buy data and go online and apply. So the first thing we did was to create a platform that would not require human interaction. You don't necessarily have to come to the branch. You can sit in the comfort of your home, apply online, and then, of course, meet the conditions, which were very minimal at a point. You know, the central bank had to intervene to say, take away some of the bottlenecks for applicants. And we had quite a lot of applications. I can tell you, we were talking about over 1.7 million applicants that were even eligible, that were taken in, whose applications were accepted. We're not talking about the other visitors to the site. So we had to use digital technology a lot. We got a lot of guidance from the central bank and even some friendly deposit money banks. But we were able to sit down as a group, as a bank, to come up with various mechanisms, various processes. We had to tinker with our normal processes to meet this very unique situation, providing finance for Nigerians in our own little way. Now,
can I just pause you? I like you within the agri value chain.
Yes.
Who are the what category of applicants come to you for fund intervention, and which areas of the agri chain is predominant?
Okay. Well, basically we had first of all, let me even mention that in measuring, we kept statistics of the sectors that benefited from the COVID-19, and interestingly, agri was the highest. It is in the value chain, like you rightly mentioned, is in the supplies, the supply section, or sector of the value chain, or subsector of the value chain, and we're talking about input suppliers here, seed suppliers, herbicide suppliers, fertilizer suppliers, and so on. We didn't stop providing finance for them, despite the fact that people were supposed to be home. And like the president of the Association of Farmers said, the government provided a pass. So there was freedom of movement for this category of persons, or that sector. And of course, they benefited a great deal. And the idea was to ensure that the food supplies was not affected or impacted negatively. And hopefully we can have food security in Nigeria by that particular activity. I hope that answers the question.
Now we know the areas of challenge, really, for the farmers, because from the kind of intervention they seek, we know that there are major issues is domiciled. But just before we continue, let me introduce Dr. Patty Peso, the Executive Director of Nigerian Store Products Research Institute, NSPRI, who's joining us via Zoom from Ilorin, Kwara State Capital. Dr. Peso, thank you for joining us. Just let us know what aspect of the food system would you say has been greatly affected by COVID-19?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria. I appreciate you for inviting me to this program. Yes, the area that I will say has been mostly affected by the COVID-19 is the post-harvest value chain, in the sense that the production, over 80% of our crops, of agricultural production, takes place in the rural areas of the country. And during this COVID-19 lockdown, the farmers did not have access to appropriate storage techniques and preservation, processing, and so there were a lot of spoilage, a lot of wastage was recorded during this COVID-19. So I would say that the post-harvest value chain was more affected, or mostly affected during the COVID season.
Well, the post-harvest, as a matter of fact, are we in the harvest season at the moment?
No, but
or some crops are being harvested at the moment?
Yeah, well, I'm sure she is referring to something that was almost always in the public domain, and the reason for even the passes in the first instance. You know, our farmers on the plateau produced a lot of vegetable and potato, which went bad because it was not able to distribute it evenly across the country, and where the market was, people, they could not bring that period. You will have to be there to appreciate what had really happened.
Exactly, and I want to go back to Dr. Patty Pesu, Executive Director of the Nigeria Store Products Research Institute. Let's talk about the pre-COVID era, because your responsibility is that of a research into perhaps proper ways of storing food, you know, and I'd like you to share with us what it's been like research work on issue of food storage in Nigeria, and going forward, what will you be suggesting to government if you have any issue with what's on ground at the moment with respect to the tools and the logistics you require to carry out adequate research in food storage in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. The first thing I would suggest is upscaling of storage facilities in the rural area. Upscaling of storage facilities. The past administration started this by having the value addition being emphasized during that system. And so appropriate technologies should be encouraged. Storage facilities, provision of adequate processing centers should also be encouraged. And then capacity building of the farmers, the traders. You know, we had the issue of a sniper being used for grain storage. You see, so there's a lot of misuse and abuse of post-harvest chemicals in storage. So what would advise upscaling of storage facilities to ensure that the farmers, even at the local, even at that level, can store their crops for up to a month. At the Institute, we have storage structures that can be adopted even at the rural communities. Well, we have the evaporative, for example, the evaporative plant structure that can store fruits and vegetables up to 4 weeks. And so the farmers can utilize this. The Institute just built one at a fruit market close to in Oyo State, where the farmers, mostly they are fruit producers, and they also market, is a market for, large market for sales of fruits. So we just built a 5-ton capacity evaporative cooler structure that farmers can use to store fruits ranging from mangoes, tomato, and it can keep for up to 4 weeks. And so if you have this facility, it can help the farmer. It's a short-term procedure, but it can keep the farmer. If a farmer is able to store the crops for 1 month, you can imagine what benefits that will come from such an exercise. And therefore, the durables, we have various structures that the Institute have come up with. And presently, the Institute is working with a local manufacturer of hermetic metal drums. That is a technology whereby grains are stored under hermetic condition. And for this, the Institute plans to distribute some of these to households and farmers. We are working with ADPs to introduce these drums, which they can use to store their grains. And since it's at either the traders level or the home front, doesn't require the use of chemicals. And so with that, the food can be preserved without the abuse of using overdose or abuse of chemicals. So we have technologies actually on shelf that can be exploited for both storage of durable crops, products, and perishable products. And we also have techniques for processing that can easily be adopted so that when after harvesting, and there are a lot of products that cannot go to the market, crops that cannot go to the market, this can easily be processed even at the local level and now stored for longer period to present such. So instead of a farmer harvesting yam, for example, and at the end of the day, he cannot get them to the market because of bruises and damages during harvesting, such yam tubers can be processed hygienically into chips and then kept in these drums and can be sold even at the off-season when the prices go up. So we have some of these technologies that can be exploited for, especially for the rural communities, and this will go a long way to improve the food system in the country.
Dr. Peso, you keep saying on shelf. Are they meant to be on the shelves? When we come back to you later, you tell us, we'll have you tell us how you are also, because yours is an institute, a research institute, and there's need for you to also collaborate with the farmers to share, what you have, the knowledge that you have that can help them also overcome some of the major challenges that they face. Let me again bring in the community leader. Ugochukwu Akpa is a community leader and he's a farmer at that level. So we just want to, Ebonyi is one state we know for rice, alongside Kebbi and Lagos and other states as well. But at the beginning, Ebonyi rice was very good. But the ones you find, now in the market, it's somehow, not as good as when Ebonyi started, producing rice for commercial quantity. But what are some of those challenges that you face as a farmer, in the community?
Yeah, thank you. The thing is that, as you said, at the beginning, Ebonyi rice was good. You see, in the market today, you know that the consumers protecting something. Now, adulterated is everywhere. And I still maintain, just as doctor said, the processing period. You will still get Ebonyi rice very good, very, very well in Abakaliki there, in the rural areas there, and even we are exporting to other states. Because why? The processing, just as doctor said, in Ebonyi State is very fantastic. The Ebonyi State government now established 3 industrial clusters in 3 senatorial zones. Now most farmers now took their crops to those industrial clusters. If you get there, you will see rice milling machine, just as she said. You will see cassava processing machine. You will see other machines there. And the people, the governments continue announcing, and they are coming. Cooperative societies are joining together, coming to Ebonyi State to now handle those machines with the expert that install it. And not only that, the warehouses, just as Doctor said, the warehouse is built. You need to come and see by yourself. It is working and it is visible. The warehouse is built for storage of all those things. Good warehouses being managed by experts, not ordinary farmers. So now the farmers, and the way you get there, you cannot rush to the market to do that. There are buyers there to buy. Even the government buy. The government will buy from you. They give you the money. You go back to your farm. So in Ebonyi State, we are not facing all that challenges. Not that we are not facing challenges, but the challenge is very, very small. And I still maintain till today.
Well, what are those small challenges? Because they can also be very critical.
The small challenges is like flood. Sometimes when we farm, flood may come. You understand? But there are too many canals, drainage going up and down, and the ways of stopping those floods these days in Ebonyi State. You understand? And that's where the challenges have been faced by Semima, because they are working on this seriously. Like as you know, Ebonyi State is a site construction state.
Now, one aspect of Claire's question was that Ebonyi rice was good at the initial stage, but at the point, people are beginning to complain about Ebonyi rice. Are you? But I know that there is this issue of rebanking. Okay. You know, that there are people who specialize in those dubious activities in the trading value chain. They go and rebag and do all sorts of things and mix up. So are you having such experience? Are you having such challenge with Ebonyi rice?
Yeah, we are having such experience. That is why in Ebonyi State, like we have neighborhood security watch that goes to the market to search for all those fake rice. And the way they now bring it in and rebag it to Abakaliki rice. But they doesn't do it inside the Ebonyi State. But we are watching them. That they can do it outside the Ebonyi State. But I still maintain, like just as you said at the initial time, there is no foreign rice in any market in Ebonyi State. So all the rice we are eating in Ebonyi State are pure Ebonyi rice.
The government is diversifying. Yeah. You know, and we know that there are key product areas we want to attain self-sufficiency. Okay. Beyond rice, what other crops or food agricultural, products that farmers are also, engaged in?
Yeah, thank you very much. When you talk about rice, but they don't know that we have too many other things we are farming there. We are getting there, like cassava. That's why I said that in the industrial cluster, you see cassava processing machines. And not only cassava, we have cocoyam, we have water yam. You understand? And we have potato, just as the president said, that are a very small quantity. You can't compare us with a Plateau State. You understand? So we have too many things.
How accessible are these machines you talked about to the ordinary farmer?
Oh, very wonderful. The people doing it there, the cooperative society or the professionals managing it, when you just load, number one, we have good road network. We have the federal. I'm happy for the federal government administration. The federal government approved the construction of ring roads in Ebonyi State, and now the government of Ebonyi State, in their own capacity, have done so many kilometers of it, and the federal government will kick off very, very soon. And now accessible to the farmers. Even at night, we have good road network and the street lights all over the state. That even at night you cannot move. Go and see by yourself. So we move, and you go to the machine there, to the industrial cluster there, you dump it there. Then the professionals there will now receive it from you, and they now proceed for you. Then they even ask you, can you say to them, if you have another market, you can go. So movement in Ebonyi State, for them to access from their farm areas to those places, it's very simple.
Yeah, community leader, I want to appreciate your explanations, and you so much talked about development in Ebonyi State. I want to appreciate that as well, because I knew about way back in time, over 40 years ago. But what I see lately is really appreciable. I want to agree with you. I want to agree with you on that. Because with those rules, farmers can have access to farmers can have access to urban areas.
And not only, let me come again. And not only that, you have to appreciate Abakaliki again. We the farmers, we are happy because they are giving us loan, just as President said.
Yes, we will come and find out. We will find out from you. How you are utilizing the provisions made by the federal government, and of course the CBN and NISAL here.
Yeah. Yes, and NISAL. I'm happy for NISAL again, because your initial comment indicated actually that your focus was on farm inputs within this period. And I want to ask, with every concern, are you limited to just farm inputs, or do you have any other aspect of the agricultural value chain that you're involved in with respect to providing assistance to farmers within this COVID-19 period?
Oh, certainly. When I addressed a particular question, when I talked about inputs, and she said, what aspect of the value chain were you, during the COVID-19, were you particularly funded? But we do have a product, one of the intervention products of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Anchor Borrowers Program, which we intensified efforts at ensuring we sustained during the period. Now, this product is targeted at smallholder farmers. It's the loans go to smallholder farmers, but because there's a prime anchor involved, what we call a prime anchor, maybe an off-taker or an aggregator of some sort, we are able to, in combination with the central bank and our bank and other stakeholders in the value chain, we're able to determine the price or the economics of production for any particular produce. which now results in the loans that we issue for that particular produce or that particular cluster of applicant. In this case, each value chain benefits from it. I mean, we've done, for instance, cassava, which you mentioned, we are talking about over 10 billion that is available, but it's one of the states under the new approach that the CBN adopted for that product. We are also in soya beans, we finance sesame, cotton. We have all these kind of products that we have issued loans in the billions too. So we are not relenting, and in this area, it goes the entire value chain. Everybody benefits from the entire value chain. The farmers get money in their hands or get input supplied to them, not money, but they have money in their accounts at the end of the day. Once they harvest, loan is repaid, the profit is yours. So
there's this complaint about accessibility. You know, are people having access to the loans I talk about, the ones you're talking about? People having access to that? The real farmers, are they really directly getting these loans?
What are the incentives I should add?
Okay, look, hitherto, before these interventions, we all know that commercial banks, the DMPs, were, of course, limited, not deliberate, but they were limited in their ability or capacity to fund agriculture, even not to talk of farmers. Today, the intervention funds are available at very low rates, indeed below competitive rates. We are talking single-digit rates here. For instance, currently we are 5%. Nowhere will you get such loans. We have an incentive that was introduced by the federal government during the central bank rather, during the COVID-19, which extended moratoriums for these loans that were already in the system. In other words, if you heard the CBN governor, he did give a 1-year moratorium extension for these loans. If that's not palliative enough, I don't know what is. You are not supposed to pay until after a year, which recognizes the impact of this pandemic on their financial capacity. And of course, there's also the restructuring. The central bank also under Mr. Gordon Emefiele also gave the banks, the deposit money banks, not just us, an extension to restructure loans that are in agric in this sector and other sectors that are intervention related, intervention funds related. So I think with these few palliatives or these few interventions, we've been able to sustain, at least assure, food security in many ways.
What are some of the issues you've had to deal with in disbursing this fund?
Okay, I think when you ask that question, I assume you are referring to the COVID-19 loans.
Yes,
oh, well, naturally, first I mentioned one, which is the fact of people not being able to move around. I mean, as a lender, everybody knows I can't lend without knowing or visiting the site of who I want to lend to. But we have to creatively, using the available digital technology, things like there's one we rely on greatly, which is the BVN. We have to use that as a basis of identifying those we give loans to. Now, that's creativity, a solution provided for such a challenge. Then there is the issue of having the beneficiaries, visitors, to establish relationships with us, where we can monitor the loans, the performance on the loans.
That's the farmers, you think?
Not necessarily the farmers in this case. COVID-19 was not just for farmers, it was for the SMEs mainly, and then individuals, like we called it household.
Yes, but we are speaking to farmers here.
I know, they are also part of the households, don't forget that. They are also SMEs in some ways. I talked about the logistics side of it, the supply chain side. These are SMEs who benefited from these loans greatly. So whatever challenges we found, we've been able to overcome by just being creative and by reducing the conditions so that the farmers could access. We are not concerned about our own challenges, we are concerned about the challenges of the beneficiaries, especially in the agri sector.
All right, thank you. Let's bring in Kabiru Ibrahim here, who is the president of All Farmers Association. How did your member fare? He has just done a very beautiful explanations, if you like, and it shows that they have done their job well with respect to reaching out to farmers with the palliative designed by the Central Bank of Nigeria to ensure that this COVID-19 era food is secured. And let us share with you what the members are talking about, whether they really benefited as he has explained. If not, what your opinion was the challenges?
Well, he is very specific on the thrust of the value chain that they really addressed. Production probably was a very serious problem for them, because even the Uncle borrower did not really properly identify who the farmer is. BVN alone cannot tell you my hectareage and what I do, and cannot really identify me as a farmer. But this is the Nigerian problem. You know, the database of the farmers should be properly evolved and kept properly. And the AFAN should be supported in the first instance to be able to do that on a global basis for Nigeria. We should have a compendium of farmers and their competencies. And then we should also identify those areas of competitive or comparative advantage in given regions and zones to be able to effectively affect what goes on in that competence or commodity. Now, I can see the handicap in the interventions from CBN, which really informed the formation of the National Microfinance Bank, and which is still, you know, not yet really properly addressed. The people who approach the National Microfinance Bank or the CBN Anko borrower are still imaginary. And the quantum of farmers that are really rich is still small, too small compared to the smallholder farmers in Nigeria. In fact, all the interventions of the Anko borrower and the whatever, when you really take a proper look at it, you find that we are talking about reaching out to hardly 2 million farmers. But you see, we have a figure that even the federal government has been using from the days of additional and all that. When you did GDS, we were able to identify the number of farmers to reach out. We are talking of 14.5 million people. So if today all the interventions are really reaching 2 million people, what is happening to the 12.5 million farmers? So you know, it's like a drop in the ocean. And those who benefit will eulogize the intervention. Those who are not able to benefit will always come out to say it's not reaching us. So in Hausa, what they say is, when it rains, the rain that touches you is the rain that you know. When the rain is falling and it doesn't touch you, you don't know about it. So I listen to so many of our farmers who have been complaining, even in webinars. I wonder whether he was in one webinar that we did about a month and a half ago, where some lady was saying that about 80,000 people applied for the intervention from the National Microfinance Bank, and they even had to pay 5,000 each. I think somebody from the CBN debunked that. He said that that was not in the guidelines, and the people should even be paid. It was a tug of war. It was an argument between her and this, and I was there. I listened, but I didn't know that any farmer had to pay any money. But of course, there are 14.5 official farmers. So there was was no way I could sit in that webinar and see this.
All of them.
But they are doing a good job. No, they are working with whatever they can put their hands on to do it. And there are some people probably promoting the agro dealers and the individuals and have access. You know, in Nigeria, even to call people to come for your program, you have to know some people and they have to identify you and to be able to come here. This same thing is happening everywhere. But in Nigeria, what we must do is we must be able to have whatever you do, whatever whatever value chain you are involved in the public domain. People should be able to just look and see and confirm. Otherwise, it's a problem.
I'm not putting you on the spot, Darlington Lawson, but for clarity, may we understand your scope of operation? But if you have over 14 million farmers and you are reaching out to perhaps 2 million, it does mean that it's just a scratch. Right, and whatever will be your scope of operation, were you not sensitive to the number of farmers being targeted? Did you have a target in the first instance to say, look, this program is going to, this exercise should affect a good number of farmers in Nigeria. Meanwhile, what is the data? What is the information? So just let us know, whatever it is, the scope from the beginning and the much you were able to achieve.
Okay, once again, thank you. The scope for the COVID-19 targeted credit facility was every Nigerian, but it was limited, of course. The funds, 50 billion was the initial proposition, and as I speak, it's been fully utilized. Now, that's to clarify, to set aside that. As for the farmers, we didn't set about with any particular target, so we must have so many farmers, or we must have so many manufacturers. No. We simply made it open to every Nigerian to come in to apply. And like I said, those in the value chain, the SMEs sector of that value chain benefited greatly. The individuals too benefited. What I know happened in some rural communities is that knowledgeable persons, people with technological savvy, who are savvy with technology, helped a group of people apply. So we were aware of all of that, but everybody, to allow for financial inclusiveness, we needed to use BVN. It is the only sure way to identify a person, at least for now, financially speaking, in Nigeria, apart from the national ID card. So this, the president mentioned something about a compendium. I think it's very important that the country takes that up. Using the farmers, the knowledge of the farmers. We need to have a database. You can't operate, you can't develop without a database. So that's just the extent to which I can speak on this. As for the 50 billion, just for information, it went to just over 100,000 beneficiaries, and that was it. 50 billion gone. In fact, more than 50 billion gone. So that tells you that, but for us, we are looking at the impact. We did some, using some scientific rule of thumb basis, we felt we impacted at least 1 million persons, 1 million individuals, 1 million persons in Nigeria. So, and that for us gave us some comfort because we looked at the feedback was good. We didn't particularly address agri, like I said. But going forward, I think with the effort of the president, he can, of course, make contacts, like he talked about contacts in Nigeria. You need to make those contacts right. Get a database so that we can, the central bank can work with that. Don't forget we're just one participating financial institution. NISA Microfinance Bank is just one, and we're just a small aspect considering the large bankers, the rest of the banking community. So, and all of them are equally eligible to participate, not just us.
We actually invited you for this discussion because you're also dealing with agricultural lending and risk sharing. In terms of risk sharing, how are you supportive to the farmers?
Okay, we've, like I said, we have the Anchor Borrowers program for farmers mainly, and there are still some elements of agric, or farmers, or farming rather, that benefit from another program we have, the Agri-Business Small Medium Enterprises Investment Scheme Loans, AGSMIS, which is a maximum of 10 million. When I listen to the research person, the doctors talking about warehouses or storage facilities. I told myself, I said, look, if the machinery required or the equipment required is below 10 million, these are the kind of people who would like to fund using the AGSMIS. And a lot of them come on board there. So basically, it's the anchor borrowers program. That's what we have for now. We can't go outside. We were set up with precise guidelines. We cannot operate outside of those guidelines and maybe go about, dishing out funds we are not directed to do. Let me make that clear. However, as a bank, we are also thinking creatively about doing some on-balance sheet lending. That is our own depositors' monies, using it. And we have a particular product paper for Agric too. And it will also affect smallholder farmers going forward. Okay. For now, that is that.
All right, Darlington, thank you. Gentlemen and lady from Ilorin, let's just take a short break and pay our bills, take some commercials. When we come back, we'll continue with the discussion. Don't go away.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 22 55 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
All right, welcome back. Today we are all farmers. Hopefully at the end of today, Kingsley, Kirian and I, Kirian, you can forgive us. No, I'm the second person calling Kingsley today. Kirian and I, of course, will be thinking of having our own farms at the back of our house, that is. But let me again appreciate all our guests. Dr. Pesu joining us via Zoom from Ilorin, and the President of Farmers Association here with us, and of course Darlington and the community leader here with us. Let's quickly take our tweets. We've got them coming in torrents. Kirian?
Yeah, the tweets are here. Well, okay, let's begin with Cecilia Koroma. She says we must continue to celebrate President Buhari and the CBN for their foresight in the investment in the agricultural sector. We pray that the financial support from NESL to farmers and SMEs will not stop so that the rising food prices due to COVID-19 lockdown will come down eventually. Akeju
Olagbajo tweets, we must applaud farmers for their resilience to ensure moderate supply of food. Credit must go also to federal government for mitigating plan to help farmers and cushion the effect of food price inflation. We need to sustain this to define our path to food security.
Chris Simeon says the sector, to secure our food in this period of pandemic, government and relevant stakeholders should see farmers as the food basket of the nation. They should be protected and given the necessary incentives.
Dele Jack Solomon, border closures, lockdowns and curfews intended to slow the spread of the disease, that's COVID-19, have also disrupted food supply chains in Nigeria. Now, our marketers struggle to keep markets well stocked with necessary agricultural and livestock supplies, such as quality seeds, fertilizer, and feeds, because of COVID-19.
Yeah, but we had a border closure months before COVID-19. I wonder how it affected which farmers celebrated the close down. Okay, that's his opinion. Even Ahmed Dominic says the government needs to ensure security of lives and farm produce. They should bring back a price control board to ensure that greedy merchants don't hijack food goods and inflate the prices of goods.
Law R4C, farmers are also hit by the outbreak of coronavirus pandemic and its subsequent lockdown. So the 3 tiers of government should rise to the occasion by supporting real farmers with seedlings, fertilizers, and special grants to ensure food security.
Usman Banukantu, the sharp increase in food prices due to COVID-19 lockdowns are the activities of the middlemen. The most painful thing is that these staple food are produced in Nigeria, yet these syndicate making life difficult. Therefore, regulatory measures must be taken to provide succor to Nigerians.
Honorable Ishaya Elisha, the rise in food prices is due to both COVID-19 and rising rate of inflation. The herdsmen, farmer herdsmen attack is another contributory factor. This has prevented farmers from optimizing their production, thereby causing scarcity.
From Solomon Kenny Ajay, many people, especially the sellers, have increased the prices of goods. Meanwhile, farmers are the ones doing the labor. Let the government come to the aid of the farmers by providing the right framework in assisting farmers, especially in the...
Okay, let me bring in the farmer community leader here. Before we bring in the Dr. Peso. Dr. Peso will soon join you in a moment. Let's just ask Ugochukwu Akpa how he's accessing, the intervention funds, provided by the federal government for farmers.
Yeah, thank you once again. Yeah, first, as I said initially, I have to appreciate the president of this country for remembering Agric, which we have remembered us, the farmers. Yeah, what the president said is real. Many people don't access that loan. But I can still say there's something the microfinance said that is still real. Yeah, he said about some people come together as one and access their loan through that BVL. Yeah, I thank God for my government, the government of Ebonyi State. He remembered us so much, the farmers. I was there in Abuja, but I'm now a farmer in the village. And I don't know if I can come back to Abuja again as a businessman because I'm enjoying farming. And because I pray that the next governor, the next government that will come, will key into that agri something so that I will even be richer than a senator as a farmer because farming is giving money. Now we assess our own this way. The government always advertise, telling us that we should form cooperative society because some farmers don't have bank account. Most farmers in the village don't have bank account, but they can now come as one, as a cooperative. Then when they come as a cooperative, they now go to the Commission of Agric, they register, they fill the form of that CBN loan. Then, we are getting it. Even the people in the ESCO, government ESCO, they are farmers as well. Like somebody like me, I have up to 5 hectares of rice plantation. I have about 3 hectares of cassava. You understand? And this is equivalent to most commissioners, most SAs, and there's some TAs. So we hear that Ebonyi has some political appointees. Every political appointee is a farmer. If you're not a farmer, the government will just weed you out. Because the man, as well, at the head of the leadership, is a great farmer. I think he should be talking about 15,000 hectares of land at Tego Monaga in Ebonyi State, in Ubru. Many hectares of land of rice.
Okay, so
we assess the loan very, very well.
So how would you describe the palliatives? The federal government came up in the event of COVID-19 and gave some palliatives. Yeah. Fertilizer was subsidized, if I'm right, President. 20%. Fine, and there were also seedlings. Seedlings were also given to farmers. How are you encouraged by that? Are farmers encouraged by that?
Yeah, we are encouraged because in our own area, the state government now moved it to local government for the chairman to distribute. The chairman now moved it to head of agric in the local government. So we just go there and assess those fertilizers. And remember, Ebonyi State has a fertilizing planting company. So even Ebonyi State, at the president can be aware, but Ebonyi State even distribute fertilizer to some states. And we have fertilizer surplus. So, but you cannot go to that company to buy it, but you must go straight to the local government HOD of Agric. Then you fill the form, they give you what you want.
Well, what do you say? I think Ebonyi has a very peculiar...
I think I like his enthusiasm. You see, the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative has identified, I think, about 31 blenders. He's probably talking of the blender in Ebonyi State. They are giving raw materials, especially some of the things that we get from Morocco and things like that, and they are blending. And it is possible for some state in that zone to collect its fertilizer from the blending plant he's talking about.
Okay.
Now, but the truth of it is, AFAN is directly dealing with the chairman of the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative. And he is helping us to put in requests directly to him, which will be looked at and approved and given to the farmer leaders from AFAN. Some state governments also buy fertilizer from the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative. If the state governments are going to arrange transportation, it goes to them at 4,500. If the farmers apply and get approval and release in locations that they want, they should be able to get the fertilizer at 5,000. Now, what is happening is purely a Nigerian situation. Some of the things happening is that the fertilizer that federal government is producing is 20-10-10. But there are other fertilizers, 15-15, and of course there is urea. Now, these things are not covered by the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative. They are in the market, and the prices are very high. And then again, some unscrupulous people are also getting the 20-10-10 and bringing it to the market and selling at 7,000. So the total effort is really not seen, not appreciated as it should be. But you know, we have to be careful that actually agriculture takes place in the states. The policy direction will be from the federal. So the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is simply enforcing policy decisions that have been approved by FEC. Okay. But the actual farming and implementation is by the state. That is why he is eulogizing his governor. The governor is simply interested in agriculture, just like the president is interested in agriculture. Well, there may be a governor in some state that is having a lackadaisical attitude to this, so you don't get those results.
It's not just that there may be, but there are many governors who do not key into federal government policies, not just in agriculture, especially in some sectors that are on the concurrent list, right? So that is established. But I think that Ebonyi State is very peculiar when it comes to agriculture, because the interest of the governor is there. You can imagine a man who lived in Abuja now went back home and just refused to come back to Abuja again. He can't come back here again. All right, thank you very much. Let's go to Dr. Patty Pesu. Dr. Patty Pesu, in your last comment, you talked about technologies that you have developed in your research institute that are still in the shelf. These technologies could also assist farmers in terms of food preservation and all of that. Now, are you not having any synergy with maybe Farmers Association or other sectors, who might be interested in, pushing this technology forward so that it could be to the benefit of Nigerians with respect to food storage?
Thank you very much. Yes, we do. We work with the ADPs, and through the ADPs, we are able to contact the farmers, the farming, the associations, commodity associations. We also work with traders, and by my institute structure, we are located in the various ecological zones of the country, and so they are able to reach the various ADPs and the various farming communities. We organize trainings, but within the limited funds that is available. We organize trainings for for farmers, for processors, for SMEs that are interested in value addition. So there are various avenues by which we reach out to the stakeholder. But you know, as a research institute, when these technologies are developed, until we bring it to the beneficiaries and it is adopted, you know, the job is not yet completed. So we have in our 2019 budget to popularize technologies, and like I said before, that's part of the program that we have to bring some of these technologies that we've had that due to funds we're not able to reach out and get it to the beneficiaries. So the program we have on popularization of some of these technologies is to get it to the end users as much as possible, and thereby increase the adoption level and bring the necessary impact or benefit to the end user.
All right, thank you. Let me bring in again the president of all farmers. Two questions to one now, because we have less than 5 minutes really to end this conversation. Is there, this is a general question, is there a threat to food security in Nigeria? That's one. And two, I'd also like you to speak to the NSPRI. What value is that institute adding to farmers?
Well, I will take the first one. There are so many risk factors to food security or our food system. There are those that should be attended to now. Certain things have started. We must quickly bring them to bear on the food system. 2-3 weeks ago, we were at the Senate, and I came all the way. That time, no air traffic, no air connections. I had to drive from Timbuktu to here. Timbuktu means very far in the northern Nigeria, to come to Abuja to attend the public hearing. There were 3 bills that are very, very important for the food system. One of them is the Research Council bill, Agricultural Research Council. 2 is the resuscitation of the National Food Reserve bill. 3 is the National Agricultural Development Fund. Now, when you put all these things together and you look at all the cross-cutting issues in agricultural production, marketing, technology, and all that, and put them all together in one unit and call that unit food security, you will rapidly attain food sufficiency and food security in a nation. This is a given. It happens all over the world. If you, however, rely on interventions that are not necessarily sustainable, I applaud the effort of the present CBN governor. He has been consistent from about 2016 when we escorted the president to Kebbi at the flag off of the intervention on rice and wheat. That time they had a giant size check of 2.6 billion to start it off. And I know that a lot of money has gone into rice and other sectors. There are some, of course, that are not really propped up. Now, these ones are not sustainable, but a food security system with all these factors that I mentioned can really mitigate the issue of food security in Nigeria. But it is, I think, ongoing. For now, for 2020 and 2021, it may be quite possible for us to get some food shortages. More so because there is a crushing inflation in the nation. If you tell me now that probably in Nandume in Katsina State, that is the food basket for like maize, for instance, maize is being sold at 17,500. And the salaries of even you people are the same. You will definitely complain about soaring prices. But when you look at the inflation and the devaluation of our currency, and considering that the farmers who sell these commodities will also have to buy other things, it is obvious that there will be turbulences. And whatever price they sell the maize or whatever crop will not come down.
So what needs to be done quickly?
So what needs to be done is you need to upscale production. You need to invest more in agriculture as a nation. You need to make finance to flow all over the place for agriculture. And you need to be able to do this storage, this raw material storage, whatever. And also, you need to popularize small equipment that the farmers will use to effect this thing. And you have to, the Raw Material Research Council, I will answer that question, will need to synergize with the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology in the technology incubation centers for our people to be able to produce this small equipment for processing and all that. And then also you need to work on our power to be able to elongate the shelf life of some of the things that are produced.
I doubt if these are short-term plans.
No, these are short-term. You see, let me give you one instance.
We have 2 minutes.
No, as a livestock farmer, we have a filler, the corn stock or whatever stock that we get from our, even the chaff from the rice and all that, will be mixed with many other things for feed for large ruminants. So you can get the protein component from large ruminants using that.
Kabir Ibrahim,
yes,
you have proved yourself that you're a very good farmer. Yes, what you have just synthesized, you are saying it is a short-term plan, that is a possibility. I don't have to disagree with you, because I know that if we factor in the issue of technology incubation centers across the nation that are churning out on certain technology-based products, it is a possibility. All right, now time is not on our side anymore. We would like to conclude this program with Claire. I mean, we're out of time, so let us appreciate our guests. First of all, Kabir Ibrahim, President of all Farmers Association of Nigeria. It's been wonderful listening to you this morning.
Thank you.
Of course, Ugochukwu, farmer and the community leader who will not return to Abuja for any reason. We want to thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
Again, Dr. Patti Pesu, Executive Director, Nigeria Stored Products Research Institute. It's been a pleasure talking to you this morning. Darlington Lawson is Executive Director of Nigeria Incentive-Based Risk Sharing System for Agricultural Lending. It's also been wonderful sharing your insight this morning on the program. All right, now let's take a bit of sports before we round off the program.
Joe Aribo is thrilled to score his first goal of the season in Rangers' 3-0 home win against St. Johnstone at the Ibrox Stadium on Wednesday night. The Nigerian international scored the Jazz' third goal of the pulsating fixture. Aribo nodded home James Tavernier's corner in the 54th minute to cap an impressive evening for Steven Gerrard's side.
Tavernier with the corner. And it's Aribo at the near post, and Rangers have 3.
Borna Barisic and Ryan Kent were also on target for Rangers in the game. The midfielder took to the social media to celebrate the emphatic win, his side's third of the campaign. Rangers will face Ambrose Efes Livingston in their next league game on Sunday. In tennis, world number 1 Novak Djokovic has confirmed he will play at the US Open, which starts on 31st August in New York. Defending champion Rafael Nadal has already decided not to enter because of concerns about COVID-19, while 5-time winner Roger Federer is recovering from knee surgery. In June, Djokovic called the US Open's coronavirus safety protocols extreme. Djokovic, who is president of the ATP Player Council, had previously questioned the protocols in place for the tournament to go ahead and spoke to organizers about his concerns. The 33-year-old will arrive in the United States on 15th August to compete at the Western and Southern Open, which takes place in New York instead of its usual Cincinnati home from 20 to 28th August. Both events are to be held without fans at Flushing Meadows, with players having to follow strict safety measures. Despite those measures, a number of other players have followed Nadal in withdrawing, including women's world number 1 Ashley Barty and fellow Australian Nick Kyrgios.
Kirian? Yeah. All right, Kirian, I'm sure you don't want to go today. You have already said we didn't have time. All right, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today and for this week. We hope to see you again on Monday. We'd like to appreciate all our guests and, of course, those of you who sent in your tweets. I hope that you've been able to take away one or two things today from our discussion with the farmers, and we do hope that you also be compliant with the COVID-19 safety protocols. I am Claire Adelabo Abdulrazak. From me, bye-bye.
Yeah, and I'm Kirian Umayo. Thank you for watching. See you again on Monday.